It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi everyone, I'm Gary Shorman, and this is a forum on Eagle Community Television. It's good to have you watching along as we'll be talking with the Superintendent of USD 489, talk about things that are happening in this school year at our school district. And our guest, Dean Katt, and good to have you here.
Glad to be here, Gary.
You know what, when you go in and all of a sudden this is the exciting time of year, I think it's even exciting in the superintendent's office because school is just underway, students are coming back, you're getting started, you're heading into fall. What goes on at the school district now that you weren't doing all summer long?
Kids and parents.
that does add to the mix because
well,
you and your staff work all summer long getting ready for those first days of school.
Yes, we had a long summer with trainings on technology and a lot of those things. And honestly, it's kind of a relief to get school started and having kids in the buildings and teachers here and interacting with students. So yeah, it's a little different for us, but we breathe a sigh of relief when kids finally get back to school.
Well, you talked about a couple of things, Dean. One is the technology, because that's changing. I know your technology team worked most of the summer making some transitions. Tell me about that.
We had last year, the school board approved about a $1.6 million technology initiative, and that was iPads K through 8 and laptops for the high school. And ordering all of those and then getting teachers up to speed on all of those devices. We spent most of the summer training teachers, and I tell you, I was very impressed with the number of staff we had come in. They logged over 2,100 hours this summer coming in and doing workshops on how to use those devices and reading and some of those things. So a lot of work went into it. We're just now starting to roll those out. Your students will be learning how to use them along with the teachers. So.
Well, you know, when that happens, it's easy to say, boy, this is a pretty slick, easy to use thing, but it's not so much the iPad or the computer itself, it's the programs that back that up and how the teachers interface and the administration interfaces with those students.
Yes, we always say it's the devices, it's just another tool to teach with. It isn't the wherewithal that's going to teach that student everything they need to know. And that was one of the things we talked about with the trainings this summer was it is just another tool. Teachers still need to build those relationships with their students, get them engaged, and it's just another way for a student to learn. And I think in the digital world that we're in, we're going to see some huge outcomes with that.
One of the things I know, there's always a discussion as whether technology is good for kids, not good for kids. I'm afraid that train's already out of the station because the students that you have coming into school, in many ways, know how to use these tools almost better than the teachers. So keeping everybody on the same page, getting them going forward is almost essential going forward.
Yes, I say everyone. Most people have some sort of mobile device, whether it's a phone, iPad, whatever. And the media or the access to technology is at the fingertips of every one of these students. And as we go through the year, we'll see something happen at school, and parents and everyone will know before, sometimes even the administration knows that something happened because kids are texting, so something happened. So as we go through the year, and we will be updating and making policies and trying to do the things we need to do to keep the public informed of those things. Sometimes folks ask about, well, why did you send this information out? You didn't have all the information. But on the other hand, that information is always already leaving the school, a lot of times from students texting and things, and parents know. So we feel like it's important to let everyone know as soon as possible that there's an issue, that we're dealing with it, and as we go, we'll fill in the details. But information is at the fingertips of everyone right now.
And you see that with the events that happen, and you talk about it, whether it be an emergency, whether it be a health issue, whether it be something going on in school, that ability to communicate with the parents firsthand, to know that the school district is actively involved in making the correct decisions to solve the problem is so important, and the parents need to know that.
Correct. Again, we feel like our parents need to know what is going on at the as soon as we possibly can. There's some privacy things occasionally that we can't disclose, but when there's an issue or anything, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, we try to communicate that way.
So technology is one thing, but I always, for a long time, have felt USD 49 was in the lead across the state as far as technology. Is that still close to being correct?
I think that we are going to step back up to that, to where we're going to be one of the leaders. With our K-12 initiative and kindergarten through 8th grade with iPads, I think there's other districts that do that, but I believe that we're going to be right there at the top. We're working hand in hand with Apple. I know they're excited about that many students and using those K through 8th grade. I think that we're going to have that reputation again, that we are leading in technology, and I'm really proud of that.
Well, that also takes as teachers to make that happen.
Yes, it does. We have a very dedicated staff, and like I said, all the time and effort they put in over the summer, and they're going to continue to do that throughout the year to stay one step ahead of the students. But very dedicated staff, and they have bought into this and excited about it, and we've had a great start to the school year.
Well, we'll come back and talk a little bit about some of the things on board issues when we take our break. Before we go there, though, teachers across the state, there's some school districts that don't have enough teachers. They can't find the right math teacher or the right science teacher. How are we set up at USD 489? Is that something that we're okay staff-wise?
We are okay right now. We had a very late retirement and have advertised a position in August, which is pretty unusual. We do have a candidate that we'll probably try to do alternate licensing for, where they'll be working through Fort Hays State to get all of the things they need. But other than that, we were very fortunate. We met with all of the new staff on a couple different occasions right before school started. And we call them our new class, and they are an impressive group of people. Some very veteran teachers are here and some new ones. But overall, I tell you what, this is just an outstanding group.
How many new teachers are out there?
I believe we have somewhere around 25.
25 new coming in that new class coming
Yes.
in. Not only the students, but teachers coming in.
That's right.
What about enrollment this year, Mr. Katt? Are we staying the same, up, down? You know yet?
We have, right now in the elementary school, I believe this is just kindergarten through 5th grade, about 9 students less than what we had last year on September 20th. Middle school, we are up, 31 or 2 students, and high school is down just a few. But again, the high school numbers do not include any of the virtual school, the alternative school, those things, and none of these numbers have the early childhood connections. Overall, we will see an increase in enrollment. Right now, we're up about 9, but those numbers will continue to grow.
And it's late September that you get an answer then that you have to actually file a number with the state, correct?
That changed somewhat this year with the block grant, but yes, we'll still have to do those numbers. On September 20th is the magic day. For other reasons, it won't affect our funding as like it did in the past, but September 20th is the magic day that's the number of kids you say you have throughout the year. So.
Topeka is, also a part of your job, kind of interface what's happening there. And what do you hear from Topeka? I know the new changes in the funding and how that's set up. What are they telling you as a superintendent?
Well, the block grant was new to all of us, and basically we have the same funding that we received last year. Our budget looks like it's a little bit inflated, but I've explained this before, that they have included now in the general fund monies from the local option budget, the state aid portion of that, CAPERS payments, that equals over $3 million, I believe, total. So it looks like our general fund budget is that much more. All that money does is come in and it goes right back out. The local option budget, state aid, we transfer back into the local option budget. It's, for Hays, I'm not a fan of the block grant by any means, but for Hays USD 489, we lost more money with the block grant than we would have in the other formula that was proposed. I hope that changes back to where we get some weightings and things, but For this year, it worked out all right for us. In the future, I'm worried about revenues, the way they come in, and if we'll see another cut, those types of things.
And of course, that affects a lot of things. And one of those I know that's going on, we'll come back and talk about this, some of the mandates that come down from the federal level, and those go through the state in many instances. We'll also talk about some things going on at the board. I know still negotiating, working with teachers, contracts, and those sort of things. We'll come back and talk with Mr. Dean Katt, who's a superintendent of USD 489. But first, this from our sponsor, HaysMed.
HaysMed is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, HaysMed is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. HaysMed, helping people be healthy.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Welcome back to the second half of our forum with USD 49 Superintendent Mr. Dean Katt. Our program is brought to you by HaysMed. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, follow up from this, I'd like to hear from you. My email address is gary.shorman@eaglecom.net, or you can just stop me in the grocery store and tell me what you think as well. I'd be happy to do that. Again, our guest is Mr. Dean Katt, who is the superintendent of USD 489. First, the school year is underway, getting started, and one of the things I know that's still in play this year, and we talked about funding, and of course funding goes to pay salaries and other things, but teacher salaries are still being negotiated at this point. Where does that stand?
We are, I say, getting closer to ending something, whether we, decide we're not going to agree on some of these issues or agree to disagree, those things. But our next negotiation session ought to be kind of wrapping up, and again, salaries, board's proposals have to do with more days, more time, some of the benefits, excuse me, when we look at the dollar amounts that we spend on benefits, looking at the big picture of being able to give teachers raises and those things. And I know all of us would love to be able to do something for staff. We haven't been able to do a whole lot. Unfortunately, the way the climate is in Topeka and nationally even, it's going to be difficult, but we'll see what we can do, and they deserve what we can give them, I know.
Well, I know when you talk about levels of things coming from the state, that also affects what happens from buildings and everything that goes into buildings, insurance, all those issues, electricity, air conditioning, those sort of things that come into play as well. It is a challenge making sure, and the board has to make those decisions of how you do that. So where do you fit in as making those recommendations to the board?
Well, we look at all of the financial ramifications for whatever may be proposed. Right now, we look at one of the big issues every year is going to be health insurance premiums. You hear the horror stories around the state that some districts have gone up over 30%, 40%. We've been very fortunate that ours haven't gone up very much historically, although it's predicted to go up, I believe, 6% next year. So when you look at the big picture of that equates to a lot of money for us, and obviously we need to budget accordingly. My role, I guess, as superintendent, and Tracy Kaiser as the finance director, looking at the big picture of that, and for both sides. We try to be as neutral as possible, look at pros and cons, do a lot of research, and lay information out there for whether it's teachers or board, and try to negotiate that way. So.
One of the things that I see happen is sometimes there gets to be on social media a lot of discussion on some of these items. If somebody has a question, how do they follow up and get to know the right answer versus what maybe is discussed about on some forum or open place communication?
We see that a lot with a lot of issues. And what I would say, I am available all the time. Somebody can email me, give me a phone call, stop by my office. I would love to sit down and talk about a lot of those things. There's so many things that have to do with funding, and it's not just Hays. Every district, if you read the editorial comments and those things, that people don't realize all the time that capital projects, that money cannot be used for benefits and salaries and those things. And when a capital project occurs, the natural thing is, well, we didn't pay teachers or give a raise for whoever, but yet you have money to do this. Well, it's two different pools of money, and I'd love to sit down and go through our budget, and if people have questions about that, and show them what we can and can't pull from, and the big picture of where we are.
There's also always seems to be discussion, and boy, we can just cut out this program and cut out that program, and life will be good again. But in many ways, some of those specialty programs are what really add to what we do at USD 489. Is that correct?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Whether it's athletics, music, forensics, debate, every program we have has a purpose, and a student has a need for that program. I am a firm believer, and I think the national educational reforms are coming more around to teaching students career and college readiness skills. I think that's one of the biggest ways to teach those skills, is to have somebody involved in an extracurricular activity and teach the leadership and how to work with others, and just the old school guys, I guess, like you and I, the hard knocks type attitude.
The yellow pad where you made your notes, yeah.
But no, I think that every one of those is important. The last thing that I want to do is to cut a program because it's going to affect somebody.
Well, I know there's school board meetings every other Monday night, is that correct? Or
pretty much,
just
yes.
Take a look at your calendar. You can do that. If somebody has questions, they can show up, find you there. I know after the meetings and around those meetings, and at your office downtown, if somebody has a question mark there
sir.
as well, they can do that. Mr. Katt, thanks for being on our program today.
Glad to be here.
Mr. Dean Katt, who's the superintendent of USD 489. Our program is brought to you by Hays Med and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Hays Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hays Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hays Med, helping people be healthy.